All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and get started with our Education and Culture Committee, and did want to thank our council president, who is a member of our Education and Culture Committee. In meeting with her and talking over this summer, I think, has been a very welcome and great addition. The conversations that I've had with some of our stakeholders who are represented by the culture portion of our Education and Culture Committee are very excited about the potential that's there, and I wanted to thank you, Madam President, for really expanding the role of our committee, and I think that there's going to be a great synergy that certainly moves forward ahead. I did want to say that unfortunately we find ourselves in a tough time in which we are talking about embarking on some great things, but I think what we all know, what doesn't kill us makes us stronger. For our libraries, I know we've sometimes put you close to near death, and certainly, so you should be strong by all means. But certainly, we continue to see you rebuilding, and we're very excited about some of the great things that are to come. We've got some great new spaces that are coming online. I was driving down Georgia Avenue the other day in front of Wheaton, and very excited about Council President Navarro's district and what's going on there. I grew up going to that library, and so it's very exciting to see what's going to happen for the community. We do have some recommendations that were provided by the county executive, and I want to thank Dr. Darian Pollard, the president of Montgomery College, Dr. Jack Smith, our superintendent of schools for Montgomery County Public Schools, and Anita Fasalo, who is the acting director of our Montgomery County Public Libraries, for all being here and for being partners with us in terms of really trying to achieve some cost savings for the county in a very difficult time for us. It is concerning that we are approaching this savings plan now. I do want to thank, and I always want to say Senator. You still are, technically. You know that title never goes away.
Yes, I know that.
Yes, okay. So, but our director of Office of Management and Budget, Rich Madalino, for being here as well. And I know that you were faced with this, Mr. Madalino, as you came in to your job. And so certainly this is a tough position for all of us to be in that we don't like to be in. But that being said, we have a job to do. And so certainly the county executives put forth recommendations. I want to thank Mr. Howard, as always, for continuing to work with all of your various staffs to ensure that these recommendations were ones in which you thought would be certainly ones that you might be able to accommodate within your structures. And so what I want to do is see if any of my colleagues have any opening remarks. If not, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Smith to just address. Dr. Smith, you've seen the ask for the $25 million target for Montgomery County Public Schools when it comes to the savings plan, and wanted to turn it over to you for any comments that you might have.
So thank you very much, President Rice, and thank you, Council President Navarro. And it's good to see you, Councilmember Mr. Jawando, and appreciate the possibility of working with you and the good opportunities in the future. Certainly, $25 million is a great deal of money, and it's an important effort that we all make here today because we want our county to be solid, and the school system is a part of this county, and it's critically important that we always view ourselves as a part of the overall county and not immune to the difficulties and the challenges that sometimes come along. But we want to tell you today that this money that we've come here today to discuss, none of these savings come from our schools or classrooms. None of the savings come from our schools or classrooms. They're all savings that we are able to be very, very careful and look at every single expenditure from the central office and the systems that we operate. And so we anticipated reserving $22 million, and we certainly will meet this target of $25 million in the upcoming budget year.
So with that, I'm going to turn to my colleagues. We'll address each one separately. There's been a council staff recommendation to support the county executive's $25 million savings target. You've heard from the superintendent. Are there any questions or comments for him?
I have one question.
Oh,
Yeah.
Councilmember Jawando.
Thank you, Chairman Rice, and good to be with you. It's exciting to be on my first committee meeting with these dynamic folks and on both sides of the table. So thank you very much. So I understand, Dr. Smith, not going to impact schools or classrooms. You had the $22 million, I'll call it surplus for lack of a better term, but savings that you already had. Where are you filling the gap, and does that impact, that $3 million, if my math's correct? And then does that impact going forward? Say if we, unfortunately, hopefully it's not the case, if we find ourselves in a situation next year that you have, when does that we start to worry that catches up and we start worrying about it impacting classrooms?
Well, it does catch up every year, and I appreciate this question very much. When I walked into the school system not quite 3 years ago, we had a $33 million carryover that year. And so we came back the next year and we were able to reduce it to $22 million. And then last year we had hoped to bring it down to more like $15 million. And $15 million puts it in the range of about 0.5% of the total budget. And then Mr. Leggett came back last year and asked us to carry over $25 million. And we did that last July 1st, which means at some point, you either have to always save $25 million, or you have to cut costs by $25 million, or you have to increase the overall budget by $25 million. So it is absolutely accurate what you're asking, that at some point it can catch up to us, and hopefully a year from now we won't be having this conversation, and the school system will be able to work to bring that carryover to a 0.5% goal, which is reasonable for a budget the size of ours. When you get to 1%, given that 92% of our funding is used for people, for the people in the 206 schools, soon to be 207 when Clarksburg Village number 2 opens in August, that we're a human being intensive organization. So.
Thank you.
Excellent. So without objection from my colleagues, we'll accept the Montgomery County Public Schools executive's recommendation for a $25 million savings target. Thank you very much, Dr. Smith, and thank you to your staff who've continued to work intently with us over these years. Let's turn to Montgomery College. And Montgomery College has a $2.8 million target that was recommended by the county executive. And I know that your board has to finalize those decisions, but Dr. Pollard, unless there are initial questions, I'll turn it over to you to go ahead and give us your thoughts as to the college's ability to meet that $2.8 million target.
Well, first of all, good afternoon to each of you. I have not had the opportunity to formally say congratulations to each of you for your elections or re-elections to these roles. I am very proud and always have been to live in Montgomery County, knowing that I work with a council that lives its values out loud. And the support this council and the county executive's office has had for education, in particular, Montgomery College, is unparalleled. So I'm grateful for that and looking forward to working with you in this capacity, and certainly always wonderful to work with Craig, and certainly looking forward to work with Mr. Madaleno in this capacity. I won't have to go to him and ask for state money. Now I can come and talk to him about county money. What I will say about that is that we understand the fiscal situation. Certainly, as Jack illustrated, we know we're a part of a community, and the college has always been a willing partner with the county. When asked to do something, we've done that, and we try to do it in a way that certainly does not impact students or employees as much as we can, but very deliberately advancing the mission of the organization. We're very grateful in this particular calculation that the county executive did that he is also looking at the spending affordability guidelines that were adopted last year that exclude student tuition as a way of looking at how one would calculate these resources. So we have, as you know, in our draft budget, which our board will be taking action on later this month, identified the $2.1 million, and we will be working over the next week to identify the remaining amount to get to the 2.8, because we know that is something the county has asked us to do. And we're also preparing our budget, already looking at other efficiencies and ways in which we can reduce money. I work with some very talented people, and they have already been doing some tremendous work to position us well for the budget that hopefully will be coming to you in the next couple of weeks. So with that, very grateful to be back, delighted to, I'm not sure if I should say delighted, this is my first meeting with the Education Committee, but always joyous to be with you all and to certainly represent the interests of the college and the students we serve. Thank you.
Thought I was getting cut off. I was like, okay. Let me turn to my colleagues first and see if my colleagues have any questions or comments. If not, let me just very briefly say to you, Dr. Pollard, as with you, Dr. Smith, I continue to appreciate the collegiality that you continue to have in really focusing on trying to achieve our bottom line. There have been some very difficult decisions that we've had in the past when it comes to savings plans. This one is actually much better, and so I really want to thank our Office of Management and Budget taking a different approach. We on this council have said for a very long time that we were a little bit frustrated with the direction that we were going in, knowing how important Montgomery College is to ensuring that from a job competitiveness standpoint, from an entrepreneurial standpoint, in terms of filling the digital gaps that we continue to see in this county, as well as addressing the digital divide that we see in our community, that Montgomery County and Montgomery County Public Schools play an integral part in terms of making sure that those needs for our community are met. And so it really is incredibly important for us to continue to support your overall missions. And so while I consider this a bit of a speed bump in the way of getting us towards our ultimate goal, I really do think that, again, we'll be able to work together with our next upcoming full budget that will be before us in a few months, and will give us the ability to start continuing to innovate in ways in which we know are going to move this community forward. So let me turn to my colleagues. Council staff has recommended that we support the county executive's $2.8 million savings target for Montgomery College operating budget for FY19 without objection. And that is so. All right, so let's move to our newest addition, Ms. Vassallo. I've had a chance to work with your predecessor for years, and it really is nice to see public libraries be a part of the Education and Culture Committee. I think that there's a lot of synergy there that certainly addresses the overall mission of what it is that we're trying to do in terms of educating our community, and libraries play an integral role in terms of that. It is with great pleasure that I officially announce at our first official meeting. I know the council president sent out a memorandum listing our leads, but we now have a lead for libraries once again, and that is Councilmember Jawando, and I'm very excited for him to serve in that role. Although this is smaller in terms of our overall budget, Councilmember Jawando will be leading us through the budget effort with our libraries for our upcoming budget session, and so I'm very excited about that, and we'll be working very closely with him as we continue to further the future of our libraries and continue that the services that they would provide to our community are robust. The county executive had proposed a reduction of $1.276 million. It's roughly about 3% of the approved tax-supported appropriation. I know that when I initially saw that percentage, it gave me a little bit of a knee-jerk yes. But in talking with some of our staff, I think that the angst isn't necessarily as serious as it should be, or could be, I should say. But let me turn to you, Ms. Vassallo, to kind of just walk us through your thoughts on the target and what that means in its impact for our libraries.
Thank you very much, Chairman Rice, and welcome to you, Councilmember Jawando, and Council President Navarro. Libraries is very pleased to be shifted to the Education and Culture Committee. We do feel that we are positioned as an educational organization. We serve community residents from babies all the way up to the very end in many different ways through early literacy programs workforce development programs, programs for teens, and for senior citizens. So education and culture, that is what we are. So this is where we belong. The target that the county exec has asked us to provide, of course, as a Department of County Government, we want to assume our share of the burden that all departments are going to need to take on for the remainder of this fiscal year. The just about $1.3 million is actually coming from money that was realized in, excuse me, I'm getting over a cold, personnel savings from the early part of the fiscal year. We have quite a few high-level vacancies through retirements or people moving to other library systems. So that has allowed us to realize the savings without having an effect on services to county residents in terms of library services going forward. And we are able to do that for the rest of this fiscal year. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about this.
Let me actually take an opportunity to turn this over to our lead for libraries, Councilmember Jawando.
Thank you. I get the honor of cutting you for my first discussion. No, but thank you, Chairman Rice. And I know we've been rescheduled a couple times. The snow was one, and a couple of, but we're going to get together. I'm very happy to be the lead for libraries. Long Branch Library was a big part of my life growing up, and excited to visit all 22, as we talked about, including the one in the corrections facility. And be a good partner with you and with the Friends of the Library and just all of us as we make sure that you're integrated properly. So I'm excited to work with you. And looking forward to getting together soon to talk about the future for libraries and what we can do. And I know we'll be getting an appointment at some point from the executive, but between now and then and after then, I want to work with you and your staff to make sure we have a good vision for how the libraries can integrate into our entire community even more so than they already are, realizing that they are. So thank you. I have one quick question about you said a lot of high-level vacancies and retirements, and these are pretty distributed along all of the branches, right? These openings, or?
I would say that we have them at the administrative level. For example, the director. We've
Right.
been without a formal director, an appointed director for a year and a half. We had an assistant director leave to take a position in Canton, Ohio. So these are pretty significant high-level jobs. Those of us who are in administration are covering those responsibilities while we wait to fill them. We did have some managers. We have happily, just within the past 2 weeks, finally filled all of our branch manager positions. And then we were short about 4 to 5 assistant managers, and one of those who was the manager at the jail library. And we started 3 new assistant managers this week. The manager of the jail library will be beginning right at the end of January. So people are coming in to fill these jobs, to take them.
Great.
And
Okay, wonderful. So, Mr. Chairman, do you want to move forward? I don't have any other questions unless
I have.
Mr. Navarro does.
Council President Navarro.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. So I hear what you're saying, and I can understand. Of course, nonetheless, it begs the question, given the history of trying to do whatever we can to restore the resources, and then
Yes.
even, the thought process behind including libraries and education and cultures, because we have been aware that libraries have really evolved into providing and fulfilling, I think, a role of, I would almost say, community hubs that complement
absolutely.
education and many of these other. So there's been really robust conversations that we've had in this, the HHS committee for many, many years. And so how do you envision, as we move forward with, of course, an upcoming budget, how do you see the impact of these particular, vacancies in terms of your efforts to fill these positions? And also, this can be a budget conversation, but, how can we continue to look at ways to find synergy between the role of libraries, the role of MCPS, the role of Montgomery College, et cetera, for us to to really amplify many of our, unique educational and workforce development goals. And that can be something that we can discuss during the budget, but most importantly, with this particular savings plan, do you see, trying to achieve that ultimate goal of positioning the libraries like that impacted by this particular savings plan and the ability to hire folks?
No, not at this time. We are moving forward with hiring, and I feel that we will be able to provide the branch services. We do have partnerships with both the college and the public school at this time. Representatives of both organizations sit on the library board. There are nonprofit partners that we work with very closely in order to be able to provide enhanced services to the community members. And so I think we are also looking at all of the services that we provide as our new county exec wants to see us looking at the outcomes for the community. So it's a very interesting time for us, a challenging time, but our core mission is there. We are focused on it, as well as moving forward to provide the new types of services, materials, and resources that the community is asking for from us.
Thank you. And so for me, it is important that, our community understand that we haven't lost sight of this. And I think there is major synergy here on the county council with the executive to find even more opportunities to leverage all these amazing resources and put it to best use for our community. So we
Absolutely.
are still very committed, and this in no way reflects, sort of walking back that commitment whatsoever. But sometimes when we present these savings plan, it is difficult to explain to our constituents that we're not cutting, and folks still remember what happened during the recession. But
Right.
we're moving forward, and we will continue to work together.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, Council President, I think that's a great point, and one in which we've, in my service on the Kerwin Commission, which really is the Commission on Innovation and Excellence in Education, it really is about looking at the future as a whole for our education space, the future of our libraries and how they play a role, the future of all of our community entities and what they do and how they help to contribute overall to the greater lifting up of our community. And so from that perspective, our libraries play a very integral role in making that happen. And so it's one in which, like I had said before, along with, and I've had a great working relationship with our school systems, both K through 12 and our college, that understand how they can manage those types of asks. And it's been very difficult for our libraries to manage those kinds of asks. And so without having it impact the greater community, whether it's through service hours, whether it's through the level of assistance that we're able to provide for our communities. And so we're very sensitive to that understanding, because the great thing about it is that, you've all got great advocates, but we will hear from our library advocates very quickly about the impacts of service and what that has on communities. I always tell the story about how when I first ran in 2010, when I actually represented a portion of Alney along with Councilmember Navarro, and I was knocking on doors, and the number one issue that I got from knocking on doors was about the fact that we had reduced library hours and that people were not happy about that. So Councilmember Duando.
Thank you.
But it is one, all joking aside, that we take very seriously. We take this charge very seriously, and so that's why we wanted to ensure that for all of you, that we weren't impacting the great progress that we've made for our community. And so I'm happy to hear that these numbers aren't doing that, that they are allowing us to continue to innovate, continuing to advance in some of the very important work that each of you are doing in really bridging a lot of the equity gap that we can continue, that we unfortunately continue to see in our communities, that's being addressed by each and every one of you. And that's really important to us. So with that, we have a council staff recommendation to support the executive's recommended reduction of $1.276 million for public libraries, and I assume that's without objection as well. Okay, so I wanted to just conclude by thanking my colleagues, by thanking staff, by thanking each and every one of you for being here but then also for being partners with us. I look forward to working with each and every one of you as we embark on analyzing the county executive's budget and making sure that we have a budget that reflects the values of our community, one that holds up a lot of what we're looking to do and accomplish, which is really make grounds when it comes to ensuring that we're making a difference in people's lives, the mission that each of you have each and every day. So thank you for the great work that you have, and ladies and gentlemen, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.